And now, it's time for a Star Trek story. You know, Aren, we've been watching Voyager for the last few weeks. Still not that far into it. Voyager being what it is, for some of us, these can be the desperate times. So I think this leads to a very appropriate question here as we're here in Voyager. My question of the day to you, Aren, are we justified in doing anything we can to survive?
Look, I get most of the animal kingdom will do whatever it takes to survive, but also they basically run off of like instinct.
Sure.
Humans do not. Obviously, we have those. That's why we do these things, because we want the species to survive. We want to survive. But when we start just doing harm to others just for the sake of, existing a little longer, that's when it especially, like, animals too, but especially other sentient, in Star Trek terms, races. For us, it's just other humans. Mm-hmm. There's a line.
All right, we are morally culpable, so there are moral limits to survival. Okay. I like that. It seems very Star Trek-y. Fortunately, we are watching Star Trek today on today's episode of Star Trek Stories. Yay! Yes, this is episode 70, Phage. I, of course, am your thriving host, Jaron Hatch, and I'm joined here by my prevailing co-host, Aren Hatch. Hello.
No takebacks. You said that you're the co-host.
I'm the co-host now. So for today's episode, yes, welcome to the show, everyone. Good to have you on with us. We are still early in our look at Voyager. We've still got a long road to go, as does Voyager. Last week, we watched Parallax, where B'Elanna Torres helped solve the anomaly of the week and got promoted to chief engineer. It's just that easy.
You can assault your coworker and still get promoted
in the same episode. If you can geek out with the captain about the anomaly of the week, it doesn't matter how many people you've assaulted, you will get that chief engineer job. Yep. Lesson for all of you young people trying to get ahead in the corporate world. Today, we have a brand new guest on with us. Sitting in the captain's chair, we have the very lovely Leah Medley on with us. Hello, Leah.
Hi, Jaron.
Hello, Leah. Yes, for those who don't know, Leah is one of my co-workers and good friends from Utah Symphony, Utah Opera, as are many of our guests. I have a large pool of co-workers that I bring onto the show. You poor, sorry people. I don't know why you come work for us. But welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jaron. I'm glad to be here.
Leah, I always like to get to know our guests a little bit, at least for our listeners at home. I know you have many different interests. And I always like to ask what kind of nerd someone is. Leah, if I were to come up to you and ask you what kind of nerd you are, what would you say? I know you have actually vocally said in your interview that you are like a customer service nerd. So I know that's one of them. Is that your big one?
Storytelling.
I see. I knew we were friends for a reason. Yeah. Storytelling nerd. Okay, like under what context would you say?
I'm just really passionate about all forms of storytelling. So I like movies, books, short stories, interpretive dance. If it tells a story, I like it.
Aren, I think you...
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way.
That's like the same, and that's why you and I get along so well, because we're kind of on that same wavelength.
And it's perfect, because this podcast is called Star Trek Stories.
It's all connected. Yeah, because for me, it's getting to... And tell me if this is how you feel, though I imagine it is, because it's not even just like the superficial, and that's not exactly the right word, but there's like the story you're getting. But for me, I also love like diving deep. I'm like, but what's the stories behind the stories? It's kind of like how the I can't remember the name of the documentary, but like the documentary of Apocalypse Now, arguably better than the movie itself, because the stories behind the scenes are so interesting. is that how you would describe yourself? Like, it's not just the thing itself, but like everything.
Oh, yeah, it's for sure that, because it's not just sort of the fictional stories that we might tell. It's also the historical stories as well. So that's the story behind the story. Oh my gosh. Yeah, sometimes actual artwork is like a short that's a few minutes long, but then I'll spend like 3 days just researching it, and that's just as fascinating. So oftentimes full of more drama than even the story was full of. So
right on. I love that. Leah, I know you're a fairly big Star Trek fan. I know you haven't seen all of it, but I know you're pretty hardcore about what you have seen. Would you consider yourself hardcore? How would you categorize yourself?
I think at one point I was more hardcore, and then I sort of had some life stuff go down and kind of
fell off the wagon.
A little bit fell off the wagon and then came back to it. But it also just depends on, like, the ones I grew up with I'm more hardcore about than the ones that I came to later.
Yeah. So as the name of the podcast insinuates, I was like to ask, like, what's like your Star Trek story? Where does all this come from and start for you?
So when I was growing up, my dad was a really big sci-fi fan. So, like, while he was after work watching TV, I'd go sit like next to him on his bed and just chill. And he was always watching some kind of sci-fi, so it just seeped into my psyche. But I grew up with the animated series, the original series, and Next Generation, and then a sprinkling of the movies. Mm-hmm.
I was actually talking about this with my brother/roommate Tanner, because he was like, what are you recording today? And blah, blah. And I said, my friend Leah's coming on. I'm like, what's their whole thing? And I'm like, believe it or not, because you started with, not the OG, not Next Generation, you started with the animated series. And I was like, when I remember when you said, like, yeah, that's actually really the one that got me into it. I'm like, the animated series? I don't think I've ever met anyone who put that one. I was like, that's the one that got me in.
I listed it first today, too. It just always comes out first. I grew up on it. It was like you get off from school and you have a snack before homework and you watch that. That was in my, like, after-school cartoon rotation.
This is so... I'm like, I have met many Star Trek fans. I don't think I've ever met anyone who basically, I'm like... And I know there were others, like the original show, but you specifically said that 70s cartoon, in a lot of ways, growing up, that was my jam.
Yeah, and I actually feel like it's been a while since I revisited it, so I probably don't have as much of it just ready to go in the memory banks as I'd like to, but there's certain things that I just can't forget about it, and there are certain parts of the lore that they reveal there for the first time, which I didn't realize how special that was as a kid. I was just like, cookies and cartoons, Oh,
wait, Spock did this as a kid? Wow.
Yeah. I think I appreciate it a lot because I watched it simultaneously growing up with the original, but the cartoon was every day after school. The original was once a week, so the cartoon was a little bit more, and I was a kid, so it was a little more impactful, yeah.
If I recall correctly from our conversations, though, you would put the 60s show as your personal favorite.
It's difficult to... That one and the original, to me, go so hand in hand. They're like...
The 60s original
The 60s original and the original series, and then the cartoon, the animated series and the original series go hand in hand to me in such a way that I don't...
It's hard to separate.
It's hard to separate for me, yeah. I don't know if I would like it as much as a standalone, but paired with the 60s, I love it. I was saying I think it's a toss-up between those as my favorite, but objectively, I think Next Generation's better.
You haven't watched a lot of Voyager. I know Voyager's kind of a relative blind spot for you.
Yeah, probably over a decade ago, I watched a couple of episodes, and what I could tell you from that is that I remember how they look. That's it. And then just recently, I watched the 3 episodes that precede the one we're going to watch today. I got a little mentally derailed by the abysmal indigenous representation.
It's so bad.
It is the cringiest cringe. The Jewish consultant for Native American topics was, once I read into it, talking about the backstory can be more interesting than the main story. I was like, oh, so many mistakes were made.
Oh, it wildly upsets me to this day. This is actually a great pivot point. Speaking of Native American genocide, Leah, what do you think? Are we justified in doing anything we can to survive?
Ooh. So my degree is in ecology, and I have a history of hardship and trauma. So my answer would be yes, absolutely. Justified in anything with no limits. However, that does not mean that I personally have no qualms over anything. Yeah. I just don't think when it comes to survival, when it comes to actual survival, no, I don't think there are limits.
Yeah, you bring up a good, meaningful distinction here. Because, this is why always kind of defining your terms is always so important. Like, between the two answers we've gotten, I'm like, if we were talking about single individual survival, just one person out there, one being out there, then I'm like, yeah, it's hard to say no. If we're talking more about some kind of larger societal, cultural, just this society or culture just deciding to do whatever to survive, that's when I'm like, I don't know about that now. So I think, yeah, it really kind of depends, I guess, in the context of what we're specifically talking about. Because survival, as specific it is, can be looked at pretty broadly.
Yeah, survival is a broad topic. So I do think just answering a question in the theoretical sense, in the hypotheticals, that I would stand by that answer. However, it is going to be case specific in the real world. Right.
If Joe Blow is out there, lost in the wilderness and has to kill another guy to survive, I'm like, what do you say? No. But if you're talking about, again, the United States, and it's like, well, we feel like in order to survive as a country, we need to take this whole landmass. I'm like, that's not how that works.
Right. I'm talking about life forms surviving, not institutions. That's a totally different, on an institutional level, no. Yeah. On, this is a living thing just trying to survive, then yes. Yeah. I don't think any artificially created organization or institution gets to trump life for life forms just because they decide. But we could go into some. I have opinions of certain organizations and institutions. Sure. Already. We could even go into the fact that we don't have universal health care. No. So America's more important than any of us that make it up, apparently. So there's that.
See, that's what I'm coming at this question as. That was great English there, but cultures, institutions, nations, that kind of stuff. If there's a guy out in the woods with a bear, I don't. That didn't even.
The bear's gotta go.
That didn't even enter into my view. I was like, well, yeah. Kill the bear.
I'm a vegan. I'm like,
if
I'm killing
someone's
that
trying
fucking bear.
to kill you,
yeah.
Yes. If you,
yeah. And this is great. These are exactly the kind of discussions that we come to Star Trek for. So I will be curious if Star Trek gives us any insight, if we can do anything to survive. Because at this point, Voyager's trying to help the franchise survive. Yes, we are watching Phage today. This premiered February 6th, 1995. This is the 4th episode for the first season of Star Trek Voyager. So in this episode, we are getting Voyager's second recurring adversary, at least with regards to the beginning of Voyager, because they kind of change out adversaries due to the nature of the show. So today we are going to be meeting the Vidians. So I think one of the things we can think about while we watch this one is how well they do here in introducing a new adversary to the franchise, and maybe just explore the challenges that come with creating new aliens and enemies. All right, for all of you at home who are going to watch along with us, Star Trek Voyager is streaming on Paramount Plus. You can find it by bringing up Season 1, Episode 5, and we will be back after we watch Phage.
So now I am left with the same choice you made. Whether to commit murder to save a life, or to allow my own crewman to die while you breathe air through his lungs.
It must be impossible for you to understand how any civilized people could come to this. Before the Phage began, we were known as educators and explorers. People whose greatest achievements were artistic. I myself am a sculptor of note on my world. All I can say is that when your entire existence is at stake...
You don't have to explain yourself, Motora.
If the consequence of this act is a death sentence, so be it. At least it will put an end to my suffering.
I can't begin to understand what your people have gone through. They may have found a way to ignore the moral implications of what you're doing, but I have no such luxury. I don't have the freedom to kill you to save another. My culture finds that to be a reprehensible and entirely unacceptable act. If we were closer to home, I would lock you up and turn you over to my authorities for trial. But I don't even have that ability here. And I am not prepared to carry you forever in our brig. So I see no other alternative. But to let you go. Take a message to your people. If I ever encounter your kind again, I will do whatever is necessary to protect my people from this harvesting of yours. Any aggressive actions against this ship or its crew will be met by the deadliest force. Is that clear?
We just got done watching Phage. In case you have never seen this episode, didn't watch it along with us. So in this one, they are looking for new sources of dilithium because for some reason they are constantly having power shortages on Voyager. I don't quite understand this. But they need more dilithium to power the warp core. Good old handy Mr. Neelix. He's like, I know of like a little planetoid that has some dilithium. They find it. They beam down to go check it out. And while they're down there, Neelix gets attacked by an unknown assailant. And suddenly, when Chakotay and Harry Kim find him, his lungs are missing. They beam him up to the ship. The holographic doctor, he is able to figure out a quick way to save him of creating holographic lungs for him. So basically, Neelix spends most of the episode basically in like a 24th century Star Trek iron lung. Meanwhile, the crew are trying to track down the aliens who did this. There's like a whole tracking them down plot. They eventually find them. It is revealed that these people are members of the Vidian species, and it turns out that their whole species has been afflicted by this horrible disease that they just call the Phage, and it just like it just deteriorates their body. They just look like their bodies are just like deteriorating in front of their eyes, like skin grafts. Parts of their brain are exposed. It's pretty gnarly. Little bits of hair sticking out. It turns out this phage, that there's no cure. They have been dealing with this for 2,000 years, but they're also losing 1,000 people a day. I'm like, I don't think the math works out on this. If you're losing 1,000 people a day, there's no way you're still around 2,000 years later. But this has led their species to create incredibly advanced medical technology, but they still haven't been able to find a cure for the phage. But what they can do is harvest the organs from both dead species and living species, and then adapt those organs to save themselves. And that's what has happened with Neelix. So in the end, Janeway, as much as she wants to punish them for what they did, she has a realization like, I can't do anything. I'm just out here with myself. I can't do anything, so I'm just gonna let you go. But one of the Vidians is so moved by her act of mercy, he asks if they can see Neelix, and they figure out like, oh yeah, what we can do is actually just alter one of the lungs of one of you guys and just transplant it to Neelix, and he'll be fine. Cass, his 1-year-old girlfriend, volunteers to donate a lung, and everything ends on a happy note. Janeway lets the Vidians go. There's a few other things going on during this. This episode kind of starts with Neelix setting up a kitchen in the mess hall that Janeway has mixed feelings about because it's her private dining room. But then she's like, you know what? Well, you can keep your kitchen. Also during this, this is actually, we'll get into it. There is some interesting kind of C-plot stuff with the Doctor as he's trying to, I think this is the most we've got with the Doctor so far in the show, where he's just an emergency medical hologram program. But in this one, he really has to come through for him and save one of their people, and he does. But he's having a lot of trouble interacting with people. He has an interesting scene with Kes. Him trying to like, wow, I need to be like, I'm not just the emergency medical hologram. I have to be like the Doctor for the crew. So there's some other stuff kind of going on in the background. We'll start with initial thoughts. Leah, and initial thoughts coming on off of Phage.
I honestly just thought they were going to go more into the illness itself, especially considering it is the namesake and
Phage.
Yeah, we didn't really go there. It was more about the reaction to the illness, so that was just an interesting...
It only comes up at the very end.
Yeah, it was just... But aside from that, it seems very much just to be about, like, is it okay to buy an illegally harvested organ for your child if they are dying and there's none available on the list? So, I mean, I remember the 90s, this sort of being in the news a lot, like harvested organs. So I feel like it's very much of the era.
Yeah, this is 95, so it's very much pure 90s in that sense. It is interesting that they only... It's called... The episode's namesake, Phage, only comes up in the last few minutes. And you don't... I think you marked, as we were watching it, Aren, it's like, wow, the episode's mostly over, and we've only just gotten to the Vidians and who these people are. It's like, I think it's literally the last act. They just explain who these people are, what's going on.
Yeah, they have like 7 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
10 maybe.
And then we just, here's what this is and blah, 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 blah. But they don't really go into the disease. as much as the episode is called The Phage, it is not really about the phage, their disease they have. That only comes up at the very end. That just explains what this whole story, why this is happening. Aren, initial thoughts on Phage?
On the whole, I really liked it. I definitely didn't remember most of what happened in this episode, which also made it fun then to watch again. And yeah, on the whole, I liked it. There's a few things I was like, what? But those things don't matter. Yeah, really, as much as I dislike Neelix as a character, I liked this episode.
Well, if you had to pinpoint something that you liked about it, what would you say?
I don't know, the story. I felt it matched the threat of them being in this unknown land. Suddenly, I was like, it's not just the normal aliens that we're used to. It's like, there's these people that are literally stealing lungs out of people with these creepy tricorders. Like,
yep.
No one in a million years would have ever expected that these kinds of aliens would be around the galaxy. And they have to deal with this, like, almost immediately. And I really like that. I also like the kind of spookiness factor. Because I'm a horror fan.
There's
and the
definitely body
Vidians
horror.
are creepy as hell.
Yep.
Their makeup is creepy, too. The whole thing is creepy, and I love it.
Yeah.
And so I really liked that. And I liked that it required Janeway... I don't know. She had to make a choice, and she didn't like the choice necessarily, but she was going by, like, context and then, like, her values and the fact that she's a Starfleet officer. And I don't know. I liked that whole bit with her at the end where she's explaining, she's getting really emotional, but like keeping it together, and you can just tell she's pissed, she's like, I have to let you go. And I don't know, I really liked that.
I mean, I think that's probably the standout highlight scene is that transporter room scene where she's kind of hearing their story and she has to decide what she's going to do, and she's kind of vocalizing her thought process in front of everyone.
Kind of speaking her thoughts aloud as she's going through it.
If I were in the Alpha Quadrant, I would deposit you at the nearest starbase, but I can't do that, and I can't keep you in the brig.
It's like, what do you do in that situation? It's like, it sucks. It's like, there's no good ending here necessarily for like everyone.
Yeah, generally speaking, this episode, like, with what everyone's faced with, there's not a lot of good solutions. I mean, because they're looking at Neelix potentially being there for the rest of his life. I'm like, I mean, he's alive, but that fucking sucks. And Janeway can't really, now that she finally has tracked these people down, she can't really do anything with them. The Vidians are in a fucking shitty situation. I think for me, I have similar issues with this one that I do with Parallax, in the sense that I think too much of this episode is taken up by, because like you had said, Leah, it's like, it's called the Phage, but it's not really about the Phage. It's just kind of it's just this thing that explains what's happening at the very end. I'm like, it would have been nice, rather than, because the A plot is them. Most of the episode time is spent them tracking down the Vidians. You get, okay, we found their little place.
You get the science lasers maneuver.
Yeah. They go into the asteroid and they kind of do like the funhouse mirror effect. And then they finally find them. And that's what a lot of the episode time is spent. It's just like the functional. We gotta just get from point A to point B kind of a thing. And I'm like, why aren't the Vidians not introduced earlier? Like, they're on the asteroid. Why do we even have to go somewhere else? Why can't we get, like, Janeway goes down, she finds their lab, and she finds the Vidians. But then the A plot becomes not just trying to track them down, it's trying to deal with them. And then we kind of uncover, like, there's this phage thing, and so like Janeway's trying to negotiate with these people in this horrible situation, and then meanwhile Neelix is dealing with this horrible situation, just so we can get more with the Vidians and kind of what's going on. And I feel like we could have had a fun juxtaposition of on this big level dealing with the Vidians. I'm like, is it worth it for the kind of like, is what they're doing worth it for what this is happening? Can they do this? And then meanwhile, the juxtaposition is Neelix is faced with, do I want to spend the rest of my life in this iron lung? Is that worth it? There could have been some really interesting juxtaposition there, but I feel like just because it's Voyager doing its Voyager thing where it's like, we're going to spend most of our time dealing with the technobabble, find them a plot.
It wasn't existential enough.
No.
It had a lot of potential to go there, and it didn't. There's a lack of gravitas, I feel like, in this. Like, I never felt a heaviness, which I feel like for the topic I should have. But it didn't seem... I mean, they're going into panic mode after less than an hour surrounded with all this tech, and then they don't create a situation where you're in a sort of Sophie's Choice, which also, what year did that come out? That was in the zeitgeist around the time, so like... That
would have been the 80s, so
yeah, so it's...
Probably less than 10 years.
So it would have still been in the zeitgeist, but we don't have that moment. We don't have that, like, that difficult moment. And then I just feel like it didn't really... I never really felt a true like sense of danger for any of the characters. Again, because I think there's that, it's just different from some of the other series where they just don't go there. It's just softer. Like, I know in other series we'd be killing people off just to make a point. And in this one, we're like...
2 or 3 red shirts would have died if this was TOS.
Yeah, where are the red shirts? Where are the red shirts that are there to make a point? And I don't... You know, I'm not saying just kill off people to make a point, but in storytelling, that's
Fridge them all.
That's what they're there for.
It would be bonkers if Neelix died. It's like, this is a main cast member
dying.
Oh, he's gone.
Yeah. That would
sooner than you are.
That would be like Game of Thrones style, though. Like, kill off all your main characters. But I feel like Star Trek, like Sue, introduce a very lovable new character who's usually young and naive and has a lot of potential just to kill him off so that you feel it like in your heart a little bit. We could have done that. We could have done that because I just feel like,
you know, especially if Voyager has a limited crew.
Yeah.
I think you could still do it in a way that makes that it's going to hit a little harder even though it's like, okay, we've seen this. They introduced Ensign Ricky, you know, to kill him off halfway through the episode. Yeah. But if you know that Voyager has a limit, like, there's no replacements. Like, even beyond Ensign Ricky just dying, it's like, they can't afford to lose people. The more they lose people out here, the more they're in a worse situation. So then it hits even that much harder.
And I just also feel like at the end, the scene where they're like, well, now that you have spared our lives, maybe there's something we could do for you. It was a very simple, straightforward solution that was there the whole time. During the whole conversation about what am I supposed to do? Like, just go, oh, I could just like do a transplant for you. Like, it was so...
Just go see him for... Oh, yeah, no problem.
Like, the solution was so readily available that I don't even feel like the whole last scene was needed. It's like she could have just been like, what are you doing to my crew? And they would have been like, oh, don't worry, we can fix it. Yeah. Because they really easily could fix it, it turns out.
Getting into it with the big thing with this one is the Vidians, and this is not the only time they show up. Like I said, the Vidians become like a recurring antagonist for Voyager. What is our feeling on them? You know, both kind of generally on paper, how they're executed in the episode. What do you guys think? Do these guys make a good reoccurring adversary? What works? What doesn't work about them? I don't know. What do you guys think about them?
If we knew more about them, it'd be better. But we get them for like 5 minutes, and they don't really have much of a character besides nothing. I don't know. And because of that and the way they act and respond to Janeway, her like warning against like, do not come to our ship again. Like, I'm just like, oh, it sounds like they're just going to heat her and then leave them alone.
They kind of come across as a one-off by how they treat them in this, even though they do end up becoming like a recurring adversary. Yeah, what do you think, Leah?
I think they definitely give one-off vibes, but I think I can see what they're doing with it. It's like the Romulans. Like there's a sympathetic adversary here. Like there's supposed to be a sympathetic nature to their case. So it's not just, oh, we hate these guys because they're jerks. And there's nothing sympathetic about their plight at all. Like they're putting nuance in it. I see what they're doing. I just feel like, I mean, when we got the Romulans, we got a whole episode with them, and you got to see their side of things, and there's
so
existential
much of that episode,
crisis, and like these guys, for someone who's going to be recurring,
you get scenes that don't involve our main crew that are just on the Romulan ship, just exploring how the Romulans feel about this. So you are really invested into how they are looking at all this.
I think that they're meant to, like, it seems like they're introducing them as they're meant to take on that same role, but then we get so little of them, it's hard to really, I mean, are they wimpy? We don't really get anything, maybe not. I mean, I think their plight is sympathetic. I think we could have built on this a whole lot. This would have been better as a two-parter. That's my overall take on that. I mean, because this feels like we're just getting to the point where we need to go farther and then it's over.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done.
I'd love if half the episode was them kind of just in the brig and Janeway is just kind of agonizing over this decision. Maybe she talks with Tuvok. Maybe she gets input from Neelix, since Neelix is the affected party here. And you see what his take on it is, like what should they do with them? And maybe we'll also
kind of
have a
victims'
scene,
right kind of a thing.
Another scene where one of the crew members, maybe Janeway, maybe someone else, is talking with the Vidians in the brig, and the Vidians kind of just talk about like what their society's actually like. We know the guy's a sculptor, but it's like, can we see more of this? And it's like, are you still artistic? Because the clothes you're wearing are terrible. I was like, I don't know. How artistic are you actually? And like, what are your sculptors actually?
Are you guys?
What do your sculptures actually look like? Like
just these deformed, like, I'm a renowned sculptor.
Like, what if the Vidians are like, I don't want to die in here, and so they're trying to build even more sympathy by maybe describing what their life is like, or maybe we just get a scene just with the Vidians themselves just talking to each other in the brig, and maybe slowly we get that one guy is getting closer and closer to the idea where it's just like, you know what, I want to like help them.
This, this is interesting because, because I feel like they are I think we would all agree, they are a very sympathetic for how monstrous and the body horror of it all. They are very sympathetic, but it feels like we don't get any time to process this. Like, as soon as they show up, you're like, oh, like they instantly are like, oh, this is what's going on, like minutes. And you're just like, oh, yeah, oh no, that sucks. Imagine if a story where like they encounter the Vidian, like the guy who zaps Neelix, let's say, like the story is like they find that guy pretty early on. You could do this whole story, like, and he's in the brig and everything, and he looks the way he does, but they don't have the full story. He's like, I'm not telling you anything, like, fuck you guys. But you could do this whole thing where it's like, this is a monster. Fuck this guy. Who is this person? And just kind of play with the audience expectations and the crew expectations. So you get the kind of like connection with the audience and the crew. It's like, this guy fucking sucks. But then imagine if like a Vidian ship shows up to save their guy while they're trying to save Neelix. Then it's like, and then they get more, then there's a lot more you're playing with, where it's like, wow, these, and then you go from this, they're monsters. Actually, they're not. They're incredibly sympathetic, but still horrifying. But again, just because we spend the whole episode trying to track them down, I feel like these guys are really good on paper, and how they present them in this episode feels like a one-off. But I'm like, if you're gonna make these guys recurring villains, like, you need to set these guys up within the first few minutes.
The little bit of insight we get into their culture is them basically describing it and giving us the whole, like, we were once not that different from you kind of vibe. But then we're just done with it as soon as they sort of like make the point, or not even make the point, hint at the point we're done.
2-minute exposition dump. There's us. Oh,
yeah,
right.
and I feel like this episode was really good about opening a lot of doors and then not walking through any of them. Like there was let's touch on. I thought it was like we could have gone way farther with the whole. She was like, my culture doesn't allow that. The whole idea that your morals are culturally defined. We opened that door, didn't walk through it.
The Vidians. Yeah, I mean, God.
Actually, the door metaphor that you used is basically perfect for the entirety of Voyager.
If you're gonna open the door, you gotta walk through the door.
It's like you're gonna hallway a bunch of doors, and they got these labels that sound so cool, and then they just stroll on by.
Yeah, that's how I felt about this one, pretty much. It's like they touched on so many things that would have been awesome to delve into, and then they were just like, no, we'd rather hunt for this ship for 85 years instead of
actually trick.
They spend their whole 75-year journey home tracking these people down.
There's so many things they could have gone into with this. Also, it seems like the crew of the Voyager might have a better chance curing a virus, whereas these people have a better chance with the surgical tools. Yeah. So there's no thought about collaborating. I mean, there's a lot of I don't know. This one just seems. I don't like the pacing of it either.
That's why they got to come up earlier in the episode.
Yeah. So many missed opportunities in this.
Just as soon as Janeway finds the secret lab.
The lab.
That's it. That's it.
You don't need to go to another asteroid. Then stay on the one you're on.
It's not another asteroid, Jaron. This is an asteroid as opposed to a planetoid.
I don't know. They feel pretty similar. I guess on that note, to our question from earlier. What do you guys think? Are the Vidians justified in their actions here?
Nope.
No. Why?
I guess from their point of view, they are, because it's the only way to keep themselves alive. Yeah. But I don't know, from my own experiences, and I was like, and my own morality, one
life doesn't justify another, kind of a thing.
You just can't do that.
What do you think, Leah? Are the Vidians justified in what they're doing here?
Considering all the things that I mentioned a second ago, like, I don't think they've tried all the other options yet. Like, they haven't tried. We don't know, but they don't seem to have tried just doing one lung at a time. They don't seem to have tried a collaboration with other species. They seem to have gone to panic mode first. So I'd say no, but we don't get enough information, I feel like, to really judge them.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. It's hard to make any kind of judgment call because, again, we know so little about them. The A plot of this, mostly concerned with tracking down the Vidians. The character stuff in the B plot revolves around, again, we haven't even talked about really what this episode is mostly about, because this episode is called The Phage, and it's not really about the Phage, and we have questions about the Phage. Most of this episode is about Neelix, who's lost his lungs and trying to cope with having lost his lungs. And so it's actually a very different storyline about someone who's it's Star Trek's Iron Lung story. This, you've got this thing that's happened to you, and you're looking down the barrel of spending the rest of your life in this medical situation, which, very relatable for millions of people. This kind of stuff, maybe not the iron lung. I think actually the last iron lung patient passed away not too long ago. So
that lady?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's in them anymore. I think the last one finally went. Rest in peace. So I don't know. What do you guys feel about this whole story, like Neelix and the iron lung? This is also like our first Neelix episode on the show. What do you guys think? How does this story play, or how does this flesh him out as a character?
I should have gone into it more. It was nice to see him using comedy to try and cope. He's trying to remain lighthearted. And he gets that scene where he basically has a panic attack. But I don't even remember anything else that happened after that. Like I don't know his thoughts on the Vidians. If it ever happened, I literally just...
I don't think it comes up at all.
I was like, I want him to have also just input. I want people to talk to him about it. I want him to maybe even just come to terms with it finally. And then as soon as he does that, he learns that he can get out of it. I wonder how that would be mentally, to be like, to come to terms with the fact, just like, I'm going to be in here for the rest of my life. And then suddenly a few hours later, like, oh, you're going to be able to leave in like a few hours. It's like,
what? I just accepted. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that story comes to any kind of real conclusion about. The closest is that, like, Kes, his 1-year-old girlfriend, says she's going to organ donate. He's like, you can't do that. Oh, I'm going to. Okay. But that's it. I'm like, but that's not really what the story was about. Like, Kes and Neelix together. It's not really what the story was about. What do you think, Leah? What do you feel about this whole story about?
I don't feel like he got to come through enough in this episode. I don't think he really got to shine. There's that one comment about he knows his rights, which kind of shows us that it's also about how oftentimes in these situations it's the patients themselves who have the least amount of input, which is real. Yeah. And we don't really, it's one comment, and then we see it playing out, and we go back to, okay, now he's going to make jokes about it. He's one of the most human characters on the show. He's in a very human situation. They make a brief offhanded comment and then just pass over it. And that's really, like, to me, that's what we're going through with him, is the fact that all this is happening to him and he's the least amount of control, the least amount of power. People aren't even asking him anything. If you're in a serious situation in real life, half the time you're not even conscious. That's actually how it's happening. You're the one without any say in it, and you just end up getting whatever they give you and hope for the best. And I think, again, it's another door that they opened and didn't walk through. No. It's just one more of those moments that we could have gone so deep down that rabbit hole, and we just went, oh, look, rabbits, and then just kept walking. And it's like, okay. Yep. So I don't know. I wish we would have gotten more into that and really let that character come through more in that scene and some of those scenes. And we just, we could have seen his struggle between that, like, I hate them for doing this to me, but I empathize with them as other beings that are in the same position as me, basically. And
it was like, what I know based off of him and how he reacts to other similar-ish things, he should be angry at them. There should be something there where he's just immediately just like, no. Like, there should be anger towards them, especially when they're in the sickbay with him. I don't know if he's conscious for that, but
yeah, the only reaction we get with Neelix and Vidians is this when they take their evil tricorder with
he goes,
the two prongs over his face, and he goes, that's it. That is the only reaction, and it's still kind of played for comedy, for laughs. Oh, what is this evil tricorder?
Yeah, and it makes no sense based off of like what I know about him. Maybe if you're just watching this episode now, you're just like, okay, whatever. But as someone who has watched Voyager, I'm like, no, this is not
You'd
how
have
he
some
was
feelings
I'm
about
sorry.
it. Yeah.
He when he gets angry about things, he gets real angry. He gets really angry about them.
Again, could have been more. The character stuff I like the most is actually with the Doctor. I think there's a lot of good show don't tell with the Doctor. This is not something Voyager always does as well as it could. But as you're watching his performance, and while the episode really isn't about him, he does get a couple scenes with like Kes and everything. They could have done more. They could have done a lot of stuff with both the Doctor and Neelix. Like if the Neelix is going to be in sickbay, then like there should be some like a lot of character stuff between those two. And again, it's not up to what they could be doing, but the Doctor is kind of really in real time. It's like, how do I be the Doctor? Again, he kind of has to step up in this episode where like up till now he hasn't really needed to be anything more than the emergency medical hologram. He's like, just make sure you turn me off when you're done. And he doesn't know, it's not in his program to do that. And they're not really like, again, that's not really what the episode is about, but the Doctor is really doing that in his performance. And I think he kind of in a way steals a lot of the best character stuff just because like he has to kind of be the one dealing with this. I wish they did a lot more with the Doctor and Neelix as they're both going through this. Like Neelix helps the doctor kind of find his humanity on some level as he's trying to be this caretaker and doctor, and then vice versa. The doctor is able to kind of come through and help, because you can see in that scene where Neelix is having the panic attack, he can't talk him down. He doesn't know what to do, and so he just knocks him out. It would have been cool if there had been like a follow-up resolution to that scene where the doctor is able to come through on it, not just in a physical medical level, but on an emotional level. He's able to come through for Neelix and help Neelix come to some, like, maybe if it's something where like, okay, the Vidians have agreed to this, Neelix, and you have to agree to it, and Neelix is like, no, I'm not going to do it, like these people hurt me, and the doctor has to be the one to kind of, like, I feel like everything is there in this for this episode to be really. It's all, like, we talked about this in Parallax. It's all there for something really cool and interesting. All these doors are open. It's like, just go through it. You're right there.
It's easier to just write chase scenes and science-y garbage.
Right. And then in the end, that's what most of this episode ends up being. That same crap that Parallax was.
I mean, honestly, I kind of thought about that with the makeup application, and I'm like, maybe that's why we don't see them more, because it was a production decision about
They're too expensive.
The time, yeah.
They look great.
They do look great.
They look great. They look incredible. Shout out to the makeup designers for the Vidians. All right, I think we'll go into final thoughts. We've been talking about this one for a bit. Leah, final thoughts on Phage.
I'm getting the impression that this is a lot of the things we've said about this episode are pretty representative of Voyager overall. Like,
true Voyager experience.
A true Voyager experience.
It's my 4th episode, so I'm seeing some patterns emerge. It was just okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah, Aren, final thoughts on Phage?
I kind of said this earlier when you were away, but especially now, even more. This just makes me want to rewrite Voyager.
Yeah.
I just want to sit down and do it because I'm like,
two.
I was like, hey, I love your initial thoughts and your concepts. Now I'm going to do something else with them.
It's fine, everyone. It's fine.
They settled for mediocrity.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The podcast is fine. Voyager's fine. It's all fine.
How are you?
I'm fine. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Leah.
I could probably go on about it for like 2 more hours if we had time.
All right, everyone at home. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We hope you enjoyed our coverage of Phage, if not the episode itself. Next time, we are going to be watching The Cloud. This is one of Voyager's earliest efforts to kind of explore these characters. This next one is beginning to be very much more on built ensemble focus and like more focused on them as an ensemble. So also our good friend Rachel Leonard is going to be back on the podcast for that one. So that should be a lot of fun. All right, everyone. Once again, Leah, thank you so much. I would love to have you back on again for the future.
I would love to come back.
As always, Aren, thank you.
Thank you.
We will see you all next time, hopefully not inflicted with a 2,000-year-old disease that is slowly melting the flesh off your face. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to share us your own Star Trek story, you can email us at storiedstartrek@gmail.com, or you can visit our Discord server. You can find us by clicking on the link in the show description.